Hi everyone, today I'm going to be going over Unit 2 of AP Government and Politics as I'm studying for my exam tomorrow. I'm going to be jumping right into it. So, first, what does the Congress mean when Congress is considered bicameral? And that means it is made up of two houses. The two houses are the House of Representatives and Senate. To begin, the House of Representatives is appointed by population. They are more connected to their voters. They are elected every 2 years, and there is 435 members. The Senate is appointed equally. It is less connected to their voters, and they are elected every 6 years. There is 100 members. The houses of Congress require to work together to pass legislation, as they are required to pass identical versions of bills, and in order to do that, legislators must make whatever. The concept of enumerated powers is listed in Article 8 of the Constitution. The enumerated powers of Congress are federal funding, which it raises revenue with tax, coining money, or passing a budget. Foreign policy and military legislation kind of go hand in hand, as it helps to declare war, helps fund forces, raise armies, and pass drafts. The implied powers of Congress allow the institution to carry out its enumerated powers, as the necessary and proper clause allows Congress to pass any law that is required by enumerated powers. The role and significance of the Speaker of the House is that it is the only leader of the House. Its power is to recognize who can speak and to assign committees. Party leadership impacts the House of Representatives as majority and minority leaders direct debates and quote party members in policymaking, while whips render policy. The vice president is the president of the Senate, and they are non-voting members. Committees are important to functioning of Congress, as they allow for the Senate groups to lawmakers to debate and draft legislation. There are 4 types of congressional committees. First is the Standing Committee, which is a committee that endures for a long time, and it is the House Judiciary Committee. The Joint Committee are committees that has members of both House and Senate, and Committee on the Library of Congress. A Select Committee is a committee that is temporary and created for a specific purpose. For example, the Watergate Committee. And a Conference Committee is a committee that is used to reconcile 2 versions of a bill. What makes House Rules Committees so powerful, you may ask? And that is that they decide what bills makes it to the floor for debate. Then they have the power to kill a bill. How does the Senate use the technique of a filibuster as the legislation technique? This brings unlimited debate, and senators will use this to push down a bill. The cloture rule goes with this, as it requires 2/3 of senators to shut down a filibuster. Unanimous consent and hold applies to the business in the Senate, as it limits debate and more legislation in the timely manner. Riders affect the lawmaking process, as it is added to bills, and it is beneficial to representatives' agenda. Usually they are non-relevant to a bill. Pork barrel spending is funds in a bill are earmarked for special projects in the representative's district. And this means that when writing a bill, you add things that are unrelated to your bill just to help benefit things that you are doing or just other things going on with your campaign. Local ruling is the agreement to vote for each other's bill. The Congress impacts the federal budget through taxes, which, for example, spending payments that are required by law, which is an example of debt interest, and spending money that is allocated by Congress, which is an example of federal employees. Spending required for programs, which would be an example of Social Security. A deficit impacts the federal government when government spends more money than it makes. The role that increased ideological divisions and political polarization plays on the job of Congress, as Congress becomes more conservative/liberal and makes negotiation, compromise, or passes legislation. Gerrymandering is drawing district lines to favor one group and give an advantage. The formal powers of the executive branch would be to veto legislation and commander-in-chief and executive agreements. Informal powers are pocket vetoing, bargaining, persuasion, executive orders, and signing statements. The differences between a veto and a pocket veto is that a veto is a process when presidents prevent a bill from becoming a law, and a pocket veto is a bill won't become law if less than 10 days left in congressional session and president does nothing with the bill. A treaty is different than an executive agreement, as treaties the ratification belongs to the Senate, and an executive agreement is a contract between the president and another world leader. A law is different than an executive order, as a law is passed by legislative and executive. An executive order is directive with force of law to becoming a bureaucracy and military. A signing statement can impact a law as it allows the press to expand how the executive branch interprets laws and how the process intends to executive at which could be different than what Congress intends. What argument does Federalist 70 make in support of a single powerful executive? It supports a single powerful executive with one person to act swiftly, decisively, on matters requiring action, the executive branch checked by other two branches. The president is limited to 2 terms based on the 22nd Amendment. Some effective tools that the president can use to communicate with the nation would be the bully pulpit, the State of the Union, and new technologies. The Supreme Court are 9 judges, appeal, and original jurisdiction. The U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals would be 12 courts, appeal jurisdiction, and the U.S. District Court is 94 courts with original jurisdiction. The argument that Federalist 78 makes in support of the independent judicial branch is strong independent judicial brand, lifetime appointments, and non-elected judges. Precedents play a role in the judicial branch as they are templates for future decisions unless extreme circumstances. They are very hard to overturn. The difference between judicial activism and judicial restraint are judicial activism is a more proactive role for courts in shaping public policy, while restraint is for more limited roles for court in deferring to other branches of government for public policy creation. Other branches of the government can check the Supreme Courts, as executive can mitigate Supreme Court decisions with the lack of enforcement, while the legislative can pass legislation or amendments that invalidate Supreme Court decisions. The bureaucracy is referred to the 4th branch of government, as it is made up of millions of people who are employed to carry out roles of the government. The role of the cabinet secretary in the bureaucracy is the highest role of authority in the bureaucracy, and it consists of 15 departments. Agencies play a role in the federal bureaucracy, as they are smaller subdivisions of the executive departments which work together to accomplish main goals of the main department. Government corporations play a role, as they are government running a business that serves public good. The main 3 functions of the bureaucracy are to write and enforce regulations to facilitate the execution of laws passed by Congress. Their issue fines when laws are violated, and they testify before Congress for accountability or updates.